Close the door.
Okay, so here we go again. So I'm going to turn this over to Jim Harrison and Jason Malucci. So Jim, if you just give us a bit of background, please.
So first, I want to congratulate Penny for being in second place in the top Republican so far in the next, no, seriously, on the Budget Adjustment Act, H 489, you all got a highlight sheet that was emailed around to you. I'm not going to read it all because essentially the BAA as reintroduced is the governor's recommended BAA with one notable exception, and that is the General Assistance Hotel Program. The winter rules in the new bill stay the same that was in the original bill, which is extending March 31 until June 30th. I take it on a good authority that the administration and the governor are still not happy with that extension. I wasn't privy to the conversations, but there's been several different proposals made by the administration to try to bridge that gap to get to a yes. They have failed. My understanding is there has been no counter proposal by the House to try to figure out a way to tweak it and get it. So there's a divide. I think you can, I mean, I'll let Jason speak for the administration, but I think it's pretty safe to say that there's not a deal. And the 4 Republican members of the Appropriations Committee voted no. The committee vote was 7-4. I had left out hope that, you know, there'd be some kind of agreement and we could offer an amendment, which we can still do on Tuesday. If it passes today, it will be on third reading on Tuesday. Our committee could offer a floor amendment that fixes the hotel program. So happy to take any questions. Everything else, as far as I know, all the new positions that the legislature put in are taken out. That $20 million that was earmarked for bond replenishment that the legislature used to spend for doing some things in the original BAA have been taken out. There is a caveat because right now we just put them back in the draft that we're working on for the big bill. So I'm not sure where that's all going to end up, but the big bill's got a long ways to go. So happy to field any questions. I don't know who's in there for
Lisa.
Yeah, I see that. I'm looking for committee members. I saw John. I don't.
Lynn is here in front of you. Lynn is right.
Lane.
I missed her.
Lynn, so any of us will try to answer questions. Yes, please.
Mine is just a really simple process question because I've never seen this before.
Okay.
The BAA went to the committee of conference and usually it's an up or a down vote. So what's the deal with a?
We already did that. Last week, we voted, the House and the Senate the week before voted to approve it up or down. It was primarily, I think, partisan, but there have been a few changes. And went to the governor, and the governor vetoed it last week. It's a House bill, so it comes back to the House first. It's sitting on our calendar.
Several days now.
What's that?
It's been on our calendar.
Yeah, it's been on our calendar this week. It's been passed over. I don't know. I mean, obviously, in the meantime, we introduced a new bill, which is being voted on for second reading today.
Okay, I guess I didn't realize you could, so the committee introduced a new bill.
Mhm.
I didn't realize that is the process of how it worked, I guess.
So, yeah, so to be clear, the vetoed bill that the governor vetoed is sitting on the calendar, and we just postponed it a day. This morning. This bill is a new bill, H 4089, that the Appropriations Committee worked on. And it went through all of their machinations, and it voted out, and it was on notice, and now it's up for action today. And Jim just explained basically the same as took out everything except left in the GA housing assistance through June 30th. And the Republicans voted no on that. And I'll let Jason Malucci
there you go.
speak for the administration.
Just like I'm behind you in the standings for Arch Battle.
Pretty bad. He's pretty close. People below me.
Yeah. There's not a lot of room behind you. So nothing has changed since we all met a couple days ago in the ceremonial. Nothing's changed. We're still at the point where we were having really good conversations and negotiations with leadership last week, early this week. They put this forward, decided to move forward. We do not have an agreement around this construct. The governor would not sign, nor does he support the construct as is for all the reasons that we've talked about. And I think all the reasons that the concerns that you all share. We continue to engage and negotiate on the GA provision. We have an offer on the table that we've discussed. We are waiting to hear back on that offer, but from our perspective, this bill in its current form is a non-starter. We hope to get to a place where we can all agree between now and April 1st. We need a budget adjustment at some point outside of the GA provisions for human services. We've got some time there, but we know that there's a deadline coming up on April 1st for GA, and we'd like to have some certainty around that. Again, what the governor's put on the table is to extend the winter rules for families with children and individuals with significant medical needs. Things like, we proposed using different definitions to define that, including the homebound definition for Medicaid and others. That's on the table. We were having good conversations into the late evening last night with some folks from the other side. Continue to have those conversations. We're willing to work, willing to engage, and we hope we can get to an agreement, but this is not that. So just for all the reasons we discussed a couple of days ago in the Gov's office. So happy to take questions on that, but again, nothing's changed at this point since a couple of days ago.
Michael.
Can you explain to the legislators why this is the process where we're tabling the veto and then adding in a bill? Is this a normal process that happens here?
I've never seen this since I was here. Usually the veto bill will either just sit on the table and nothing else is offered up, but I guess the majority party wanted to put forth another bill, and they did. It's certainly within their purview.
So going back, often for the new folks, often when there aren't the votes to override, the majority doesn't call up the vote.
Right.
That's been the case. It was rare during the 6 years where there was a supermajority, but in the governor's first term, when we had 53 House Republicans, it was clear to leadership that they didn't have the votes to override. They would often just let it sit on the calendar. And just so you are, sometimes if no action is taken, even if after a BAA is agreed to and resolved, it'll probably still sit on the calendar until either they take it up or we adjourn next year. So that just lingers on the calendar for procedural purposes because the Constitution technically requires a vote to be had at some point, but that's, So you'll see it there. You'll see that there probably for the next 2 years unless a vote is taken.
Wait.
Maybe you should, maybe I could give a little explanation of why I oppose this and what kind of testimony we've had. My concern is on a statewide basis for these people that are in this housing. We have people with mental issues, mental health issues. We have people, as you know, that have medical issues. We have children with families. We have people that are drug addicted. We have a lot of different kinds of people in those houses. we would like to see those people properly treated and taken care of. But right now, we're kicking the can down the road with this program over and over again. There needs to be a plan for how do we deal with these people on the long run, take care of it. We spent, my estimate is over $500 million on this program since it's been in place. That's a lot of money, and think how much that, if that money could have been put towards building a system that would deal with the real problem for the long term, it probably would have gone quite a long ways. And so don't see any movement at all towards doing that. And simply want to do the same things over and over again. And so, I can't support that. And every time something related to that comes in, I'm holding that sort of same position. Whether it's the safe injection site down in Burlington, I mean, we're enabling, we're not trying to treat and lift people up and get them so they're able to go back out on the streets and have jobs and have good lives. And that's what we want for all of these people, right? So until I see that kind of movement, I'm not gonna want to work to enable.
I should clarify. I think the vote was 8-3, and that may change on the floor. I don't know. So,
I voted to say yes, to get it out.
yes.
And I received a note from the Speaker of the House, and hard vote, but can do better. I'll send this back. So, and I know that got delivered here too. So Jason, I have a question here for you. Is there any movement forward anywhere? It sounds like this is kind of a definition language issue here. When we get to a place relatively soon, if we can, we really need to think, bring an amendment here to the floor to put something out there.
I think I hear what you're saying. I think that doesn't need to happen today because this is just second reading and
Yeah, I didn't mean.
we're not suspending rules so third reading won't be until next week. So there is an opportunity for that. But we're like I said, we're having good conversations. As you all know, the governor's position is he will not agree to blanket extend the winter rules until he will not agree to that. And we're working on definitions for who he would agree to extend. But the default should no deal be made, what happens on April 1st with relation to this program is existing law exists that was agreed to by the legislature last year, where individuals have an 80-day allowance. So the traditional program as agreed to by the legislature still exists. So the program itself doesn't end. But one consideration for folks is if we were to just do the blanket extension for everybody in the program, now we have a rooms cap. So but the homeless population run is not stagnant. New people experience homelessness throughout the year at different times. If we were to just blanket extend for everybody, someone who newly becomes homeless in that intervening period who would otherwise be eligible for this program would not have a place to go because the rooms are filled by people who are still in the program, who have been in the program throughout the last 4 months under the winter rules. So again, we are having good conversations. We're working. We have an offer on the table. We're waiting to hear back. And my anticipation, we've put some of the categories that we would agree to do a extension for the full period until the new fiscal year kicks in, where everyone's 80 days reset. I'm guessing they'll probably come back asking for additions. And then so that's how I see the process working over the next couple of days, but those conversations are ongoing.
Since we haven't really moved forward yet, you're having conversations, which I'm encouraged about here. My vote's different today. Not uncommon for us to vote to get stuff out of committee here. Let's move it ahead so we can look at it, consider it, go in a better direction. And the leadership knows that from me. Thank you.
Brenda.
I'm on the Human Services Committee and he hit the nail on the head. I asked Deputy Commissioner Miranda Gray in-house in my committee, if there are people that are approved for their 80 days that can't get in a room right now. And she said yes, and this is on camera.
Any other questions? No? Okay, you can take us.
Wait.
Sorry. Greg.
Just more like take on things. When we voted on this back
a month ago, for the first round. I was not impressed with the arguments on the floor where it was mostly a Sunday school question of should we help the poor or not? And of course, we need to help the poor disadvantaged in our community. The question that we really face is how do we best help the poor? For instance, my wife, she picked up a hitchhiker 2 years ago, with my kids in the car, and I picked up hitchhikers. And the very next day, that same person stabbed a person to death at Salvation Army. And that was a little bit of a shock to the system. How do we best help them? And that's what we're trying to address. So the question that keeps coming up, the argument keeps coming up of Republicans don't want to help the poor. Republicans, no. We need to figure out how best to help the poor.
And I think there's broad agreement on both sides that this program is not the best program moving forward. We've had 135 people die in this program since it was expanded because as we've all talked about, in this program, people are in isolation, they're not directly connected to the services they need, like mental health treatment, substance abuse treatment. So I think there's uniform agreement cross party lines that this program isn't a good one that is sustainable in the future. And yeah, the Human Service Committee is working on their own ideas. We'll have our own ideas, but that's separate from the conversation right at hand. But we'll keep everyone posted on the conversations that are being had. And if we come to some sort of agreement, we'll obviously bring that to you all for your thoughts and feedback before we move forward.
Anyone else?